presume
It says live.
on. Okay, on your screens as well. Okay, good. We wanted today to talk about the high bidder auctions and how they will be effective in or ineffective in .nyc. And we have, I actually have a page that we've been just started to work on in that regard on the wiki, and I will place that information in the on the chat area for those who might be interested. But it's not a terrible lot of information there at this point. It gives you some basis of it. But the thing that Robert and I had met yesterday, and we were discussing the issue because we've been requested by the mayor's office if we had some alternatives. I referred to it as a distinctly regressive type of development. And so they said, well, tell me something else. So we've been giving some thought to that. And the last thing that we were talking about was yesterday. I guess we concluded there were two ways that were. And first of all, the problem with the current system is that, for example, Pizza.nyc, and this is attributable to Borough President Gail Brewer, used this example. Pizza.nyc, if it's a high bidder auction, the winner for that, it was not going to be my local Pizza Boy restaurant, but more likely Pizza Hut or Domino's. And if Pizza Hut wins it, you can be sure that a number of them number of other pizza stores will be left off of their page, and there's no, the whole idea of TLDs, new TLDs and city TLDs is that there is some innovation involved in this process, and having all of New York's pizza referring to Pizza Hut is not innovation in any way. That's a type of regression in its own, and so the question is, and the same with hotels and many other things, and for a name like news.nyc, it's easier to imagine one of our media barons purchasing the name with pocket change as opposed to the hard-earned sweat that any one of us might use to try and develop news.nyc. So how do we include that? It was the question. If you're not going to do it that way, how are you going to do it? And clearly there is a reason that the contractor who will split that auction money has to set up 60-40 with the city, with the contractor keeping 60%. There's a natural inclination on the part of the contractor to keep the system as it is. That there's to get 60% of, let's say, $1 million for news.nyc is a nice piece of change, and it's simple on their part, and it's just the standard in the industry. But so having complained about this, I was asked or challenged to come up with a better system. So how would you do it? I was asked, and so I've been trying to figure that out, and had come up with two ideas that Robert and I were discussing yesterday, and one of which was, which I might call an RFP and review panels, with RFP being request for proposals. So I would imagine this would amount to going out and sending information to anybody and everybody and posting saying, listen, we're going to have a availability of Pizza.nyc, and we want X, Y, and Z as the components of it. You must, if you're going to bid for this, you must explain to us what you're going to do, how you're going to use it, and you must have an A to Z list of them. You must have them by geography, one or two others, or three or four others, and encouraging people to put in community engagement and whatever features in the request for proposals, and then having some type of a panel that would review them and decide which one is the preferable one for that panel, and hopefully for the city. And the second one that was talked about was I might call a PIC auction, or public interest commitment auction. That so that sort of a high bidder auction of sorts, but that you have a number of public interest commitments that they must agree to. So that it's not just you buy Pizza Hut and do whatever you want with it. You buy Pizza.nyc and do whatever you want with it. But you have to have those features that I outlined in the RFP. So two different approaches to the same end, possibly, and one might be easier or more effective than the others. I'm not sure, and we've reached out as well to some folks who have some connections at the FCC, which has probably some of the world's best auction minds, albeit for different types of auctions. They're doing spectrum typically. How do you auction off a certain bit of spectrum for the new cell phones or whatever? And they have these incredibly complicated and I don't know. They give a lot of thought to it, so we may have some ideas coming from that end of the world. But for the moment, we're trying to get together a proposal for the city. We have another advisory board meeting on the 9th of June, and I'd like to have this before them and see if I can generate some interest on the part of the advisory board to make a recommendation, and how this is responded to by the contractor, who's clearly most immediately going to see a lot of zeros being eliminated from their bottom line. There needs to be some type of compensation for the I don't know if compensation is the right word, but some type of discussion with the contractor to make this palatable to them, and I think that could be done. I think, for example, their contract for the city is halfway over at this point. It was a 5-year contract, and we're more than 2 years into it at this point, and maybe extending that. I'm sure if there's an agreement that this is clearly in the interest of the city to have more innovative premium names, innovative use of premium names, I suspect the contractor would come around and we'd have some agreement on that, or at least I'd hope. So trying to get some. I need to get something. Having been challenged on this, need to get something in the hands of the advisory board by a week from Monday. And I just must report, if it gets too bothersome, I just noticed that a helicopter has seemingly parked itself overhead here for an accident on the BQE or a holdup at the Citibank or whatever. If that becomes the primary, maybe it's moving away.
I can't hear it.
You can't hear it?
I can't hear anything.
You can't? Okay, good. Yes, Robert.
One of the things that it's also the question too with the auction is, are you auctioning just for the first year, or are you auctioning for an ongoing price? In other words, people might be able, if someone sees a valuable domain that they want to bid on, they may pay quite a lot if they only have to pay that for the first year and then $20 after that. Whereas if it was a recurring fee. And so I think there's sort of, I'm also leaning more to this idea of licensing. I'm actually trying to go into Google Drive and set up a document, but without a lot of success at the moment. I'm just waiting for it. But looking at a license that had some clear provisions that define exactly what's the criterion for essentially a public information service. Whether it's Pizza.nyc or hotels.nyc or theaters.nyc or whatever, that is essentially a generic service item that people would want to know, in which there are many competitive things. So that sort of general thing, and then essentially establish some criteria for, and I'm not even sure if you did that, what other types of premium names would exist if it's not if it's not something of that sort of generic term. So,
could you give an example how that might work?
Well,
yeah.
So you would have, for example, to provide essentially open access. So to any pizzeria in the city would be able to have at least a simple free listing, like name and address and phone number, you know, and then would be able to have various affordable levels of being able to be part of that, whether it's a subdomain that one could, you know, Rick's Pizza Rick's.pizza.nyc or twoboots.pizza.nyc, where, you know, so you could have, be able to offer affordable, you know, a range of options by which the pizzerias could have a listing, whether it's a free simple one, essentially sort of scales like ads on a newspaper, that would then provide a model, and that would also would not be allowed to favor any particular brand.
That would seem to be a good component of, you know, of a good feature of either of those models that were issued. You know, whether it would be the RFP requirement in the RFP or a requirement in the public interest commitment auction.
Right.
And
right.
Go on.
And I think I lean towards the public interest commitment licensing thing, in that the other, while in some ways it might make sense, I think it could be fairly burdensome in terms of what goes into the review, and also, you know, what the nature of decision making and the exclusion of political influence or other types of influence on the granting of Pizza.nyc to any particular I'm not a fan of the free market, but in this situation, I think a high bid auction, you know, subject to that, and also pricing. And look at these $50. They might be, you know, hotels.nyc might be $1,000. Who knows? Pizza.nyc, whatever that is a price which could be in its way established by the high bid. So in other words, if the high bid for hotels.nyc is $5,000, then that would become the licensing, the annual licensing fee.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there'd be a interesting question is then, who would $1,000 and the $20? Is this something that the city, you know, since the city is essentially licensing it, could that whole 4,800 actually go to the city, or would that have to be split 60-40, 40-60 with New Star?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's certainly another way to look at it. I think, you know, the simple, you know, to give these things away. I shouldn't say give, but to have the same value, to put the same price on a piece of property that's on Fifth Avenue and one that's in Staten Island somewhere, it doesn't seem to be the market way to do things. You know, the way we do things these days, and that should go not only for the initial. And that could be reflected in different ways, you know, in annually or in an initial fee or requirements and uses for the site. So, but I think that's certainly it could actually be built into the RFP as well. So it's
right.
kind of you could you know, it's just another element, another column in the analysis there as to whether it be included. But it is. I think KW was saying that to us some months back, that those considerations, that if, you know, were it hers to develop, she would put those ideas into practice in terms of different domain names would have different fees on or revenue sharing in some way or another. And I think the revenue sharing make it rather complex, but the some type of licensing, some fees might be more workable. So.
And one of the, I am concerned. I mean, I think one of the feelings I have is that the city doesn't want anything that's too demanding in terms of both administrative and also that would open up any political possibilities of insulated from political interference.
Yeah. Well, clearly, who's on that panel and makes those decisions would be they'll suddenly become very popular.
Right.
I'm not far different than the current advisory committee that.
Right. And that, whereas if it was an auction, you wouldn't have to. That is like taken care of.
Yeah. So it's
you can't really fight the market.
There are
does
advantages.
Function, there are many things about it that would that would be legitimate, I think, in this situation.
All right. Well, I think that that we have to figure out how to present this at the next meeting. I think we should share this. I think I need to write it up. I'll try and put it on that page.
Yeah, I'm starting a Google Doc for it.
Okay.
Which I can.
You can make it an open one, and maybe you can put the URL in here before we get out of here. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I better actually to invite you to it first.
Yep. Focus on that for a little while. And
then, I will.
We'll try and end this thing, the broadcast part, as soon as possible, so that get our cogent statements in here, and then thrash about some other issues possibly. I don't know if we could start this up again if we wanted to. I doubt it. I think you probably have to reschedule it. But I think if these things go on too long, we might lose our massive audience, global, international.
Right. I understand. See how I've invited you, and now I just have to give you the link. It's not very much on it yet. It's just an outline.
Yeah, okay, I got the link.
Oh, you got the link, okay.
Yeah, but if you could post it, yeah, there we go. All right, excellent. All right, so I know we've only been into this for 10 or 12 minutes here, but if there's, Bill, any questions or thoughts?
No, I'm just trying to catch up on what you guys are doing.
Okay, very good, very good. And so, Robert, let me. I'm going to stop the broadcast, the stop broadcast button for the moment, and we could continue the conversation.
Can one resume? Yeah, we can. I don't really mind whether it's true, but I don't know whether one can go back on.
I don't. We'll possibly try that, but.
Yeah, but anyhow, let's go off. And if we go back on, we need to. We can do that.
We'll try it. Okay, very good. All right, folks. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay.